What's up guys, it's Rob, and today I'm rolling with Blake. He's isometrically one of the strongest people I've ever rolled against. He used to have a 600 pound bench press and over 800 pound deadlift. He's an absolute unit, Navy veteran, and he even made it all the way to Hell Week in Buds. I'm trying to keep my hands inside his arms, so that way I can just maintain inside position. It makes it a lot harder for him to grab me up. If this guy connects his hands on me or even gets a good grip or an underhook, he's going to be able to send me flying pretty easily because of his strength. This super duck was an epic fail. He was just so strong I couldn't windmill his arm out of the way, and it ended up just taking a really crappy shot and ending up in bottom turtle. Luckily I'm not too worried because I still can build up from here, but it's just kind of bad when you're underneath a 240 pound man for an extended period of time. Being underneath the front headlock against a big guy really sucks, but it's better than being pinned flat. I'm just going to stay here and try and work this elbow pass by posting on his hip and his far elbow so I can start circling out and hopefully pop out onto his back. I know that I'm not going to get strangled here if I can just maintain this angle, and I actually want him to hold on as long as he can because I don't want him to break free into neutral. I want to be able to capitalize on this position and counter him. I made it safely out to the back. This is one of the best places for me to be against a bigger guy as long as he doesn't stand up and get his hands off the mat. What I'm looking to do is wedge in front of his thigh and lean forward to drive his elbows into the mat. That's just going to keep him down there because I don't want to have to deal with this guy standing up and now trying to wrestle me again. As I said in the near hook, which is kind of hard to see, I'm now using this power half to try and break down his posture. I'm trying to encourage Blake to roll, but he's not really familiar with the position and he just feels a lot of stress on his shoulder. He taps out of caution and then asked me afterwards if that was actually a submission. I told him it was supposed to encourage him to roll, and so he kind of understands, but this is only like his 5th class, so Blake is still figuring out all the ins and outs of these positions. We reset and I keep the same strategy on the feet. I'm trying to maintain the inside position just to avoid him from being able to wrap me up really well. He's so strong that I know if he gets a hold, he's going to be able to send me flying if he wants to. I want to keep challenging his posture by pulling down with the collar tie. I'm using a combination of pulling down with the collar tie and pushing in with that forearm because I want to just keep him out of balance. I have to be able to keep him at a distance and deny him from having strong connections. That's why I'm using my collar tie and I'm constantly pummeling my other arm in for an inside bicep tie, trying to just stay on the inside position. Blake does a great job of getting to my leg, but he leaves his head a little bit too low. I snatch up the front headlock knowing that if I can just stay on the head, I'm actually going to be able to win this exchange when we go to the ground. Blake feels the threat of the front headlock and begins to hesitate on finishing the takedown. I think from here his best option would be to run the pipe or switch to a double. I start pushing into him so I can increase the chin to chest pressure I'm creating with my left arm. I sit to my left butt cheek and back roll over my left shoulder for a sumigaeshi. The key to hitting this move is to maintain strong chin to chest pressure and make sure his hips and head stay on the same side of my body. Blake does not want to settle his back on the mat, so instead he elects to go to the turtle position. The strategy on the back is the same. I want to keep weight in his hands so that way I can keep him on the mat. I don't want this guy to stand up. So what I'm doing is I'm leaning just forward enough to make sure that he's heavy on his hands, but not so much that I'm going to get bucked off the top. Blake tries to do a big evasive roll, but I just keep my chest glued to his back and I follow him through the roll. I'm just focusing on keeping my chest glued to his back. I'm not sure yet where Blake is going to go, and I'm not even sure how I'm going to attack him yet because the guy's traps are so big he basically has no neck. He runs up to this turtle position and I just make sure that my hips follow all the way to the top. I don't want my hips to be resting on the mat if his are building height. I think he felt me thinking about the power half Nelson again, and so instead of making me do it, he just decides to accept and put his hips on the mat. It's difficult to stay on a big guy's back when you can't lock a body triangle, so I'm already thinking of kind of slipping off the back and going for this arm. Whenever you're on the back, a good indicator that it's time to go for an armbar is when these elbows start coming far away from the torso. When you're on top, it's the opposite. You want the elbows to start crossing the torso. But I see Blake maintaining wide elbows, and so I lock up this Kimura grip for better control as I maneuver my legs. I need to make sure I keep Blake's shoulder connected to my hips. I use this Kimura grip to guarantee a bend in his arm so I can pull inside his elbow and pull his shoulder closer to my hips. I have to maintain that connection so I have good control for the armbar. Blake is doing a great job at battling my cross-faced leg without disconnecting his hands. This movement he's doing of bringing his hands over his head is actually super powerful because he's so strong. I'm really not able to maintain that cross-faced leg and I am starting to think about other options. Blake probably could have escaped this position if he had just walked his shoulders up and up over my leg and got the top of his shoulder blades flat on the mat. I would have been trapped with my leg underneath his back and I would have been forced to kind of battle for the top at that point. Because I have no cross-face leg and also no scoop on his near leg, Blake is able to start sitting up into me and start winning height. This is a huge problem for me, and to be honest, I probably should not have been able to stay on the attack here. I mentioned keeping my hips connected to his shoulder, but I probably underemphasized how important this is in order to stay on the attack of the armbar. When he starts building on top, my hips are naturally sliding to the bottom position, and I'm fighting against gravity. I need to get my hips back above his shoulder so that gravity helps me keep my hips connected to his shoulder. I start putting my forehead on the mat and raising my butt in the air so I can climb my hips above his shoulder and get reconnected. I'm entering the arm saddle now against the turtle, and he's making a huge mistake by disconnecting his hands. Blake is so strong that I know that it's going to be very difficult to break his grip, but if he separates his grip, I can't let him reestablish. This is a huge gift for me. I'm using my left arm to control him at the wrist as I use my right arm to make sure that that leg stays pinned to the mat. At this point, because his hands are already separated, I actually don't want him to roll. If he's able to roll, he's probably going to be able to make more space and possibly escape. So I try to keep him in this belly down position as I slowly extend my hips into his elbow. Blake is a little bit tired now, but it's only a 3-minute round. I wanted a shorter round because I don't really want someone to gas out because you're not going to see the best jiu-jitsu. So we stand up again for the last few seconds. Again, I'm fighting for inside position, but this time I'm adding more of a push. I want to force Blake to push back into me. I want to increase the pressure and force one more engagement. I make the mistake of trying that duck one more time, and it really fails even worse than the first time. I just can't windmill my arm and get his arm moving away from his body. I think that 200-pound pec fly is really coming into play in his advantage. When in doubt in the front headlock, just focus on grip fighting. If you dominate their choking arm, you really don't have to worry too much about a submission threat. What I'm looking to do is I'm looking to slowly dominate that choking hand and peel it off of my chin. I broke his grip on my chin. Now what I'm looking to do is stay connected to that wrist because I don't want him to break away into neutral. I'm actually going to transition here to an arm drag and look to connect to a single leg on the way up, but he was so slippery and did a good job moving away, I actually come up with nothing. I'm adding the pressure knowing there's short time left, and again I'm weighing on his head and I'm trying to get him to push into me. As he does, I start to snap him down and pull him down, and I end up in one more front headlock exchange, but this time with me on top. I connect to his chin and I start sitting in with my hips and crunching his chin to his chest. Just as I start to bring on the pressure, the time runs out and we call it a match. Thank you so much to Blake for stepping up and being part of this video, the very first video on the BlackHat YouTube channel. This guy's going to be an absolute monster in no time, so I better get my wins in while I can. Thanks again, Blake. We'll see you guys on the next one.